Hello and welcome to Commander Central, episode 26. Today we're going to be going over the history of rules changes, bans, and unbans in Commander, and how those changes all affected the game. It's nice having an open format without a ton of rules, but you need to have some, or you wind up with Channel just auto-winning the game, or you wind up with people colluding with Russia to win an election, or trying to shut down the FBI so you can't see the PP tape, whatever. So you have to have some rules, and we're going to discuss those rules, particularly the big changes to those rules and what it's done to how we play. First, though, we'll look at social media, see if anything happened there, check in with any news and Magic, and maybe talk about some games we played. I'm Dana.
I'm Max.
And I'm Chris.
This is Commander Central. How are you guys doing today?
Pretty good. It's a weekend. We don't typically record on the weekend.
We're recording a little bit early because I'm going to be gone on vacation, so we're trying to get a show done. So we have one in the can for everybody in about a week from now.
Correct.
So we didn't play a ton of games because we were recording after our Commander night, but Chris wound up playing in a modern, or no, it wasn't even a modern tournament. It was a standard tournament yesterday.
Boo, I hate standard.
So what was the problem? It was just the deck you played just wasn't a good match for the meta?
No, the deck I played was fine. It's just that the deck was like, no, I don't like you. Go home.
It wasn't as fun as modern the week before is what you're saying.
No, not at all. Like literally like most of my games were opening hand, 3 lands, on curve up to turn 3, and then, hey, let's just draw a Hazoret, and then let's draw another Hazoret, and then let's draw another Hazoret, and then let's draw Chandra, and lose the game.
Well, at least you drew good cards. You just couldn't, play them.
Yeah, that's true.
And Max hasn't played, I don't think, since
last Tuesday when we all played. Yeah.
Is your new Crush deck staying as is, or have you made changes to it?
Have not touched it yet.
Okay.
Staying as is. We'll see if the luck happens again.
Say it played pretty well. There's not anything right away that you need to change, I don't think.
No.
Well, here's something to bring up. We did discuss this earlier. I don't remember exactly what show it was. What about changing decks and how we should never change them immediately after the week that we play it?
Exactly.
You got to think about it a little bit,
Yep.
and not like just do that gut reaction.
Yep.
Well, I wound up going to my neighbor's house on Friday night to play with a couple people, and so before I got there, I had been talking to the two of them over the course of the week, and I again suggested maybe they add a little more removal to their deck. So at least one of the players, Dr. Albano, did. And
Ooh.
He did, and these guys have been playing now. They've been playing for 4 months or so, I would say.
Yeah, it's no mercy now.
But I did right,
Yep.
And they're both also like legitimately good players now and have good decks. And I don't hold back. And we played a game that went about 90 minutes, and they had answers to everything, the whole game. It was really fun, but like. This isn't the point where I need to worry about that anymore. Like they had legitimate responses to everything. It was a really fun game. You can
set them free into the world.
Right, exactly. The only reason I was able to win that game was because the Scarab God player took my Razaketh, the Foul-Blooded, out of my graveyard to make the token with it, and I had Helm of Possession, which I played to take Razaketh on my turn. Before he could win, because I think he went and got, with Razaketh, with the token, he went and got Torment to Hailfire, but he didn't have enough mana free after making the token and doing whatever stuff in his turn to cast it for the kill. So I took Razaketh back, or took the token with the Helm of Possession, and I was at 7 life. And so I had to go down to 5 to get in my graveyard to get a Cabal Coffers to give me enough mana to do anything. And then down to 3 from there to go get Cathar's Crusade and play that. And then I used Cathar's Crusade, and I think I had Reassembling Skeleton in my graveyard, and I could bring that back and then sacrifice it a bunch to make tokens off Teysa.
Which all get bigger.
Which all got bigger because of the Cathar's Crusade. I think I was able to make 12 tokens and give all my guys +12/+12, and then I could swing in for barely lethal on both of them.
Jeez.
Wow.
But, I mean, it was just I happened to have, like, 3 things that came together. Otherwise, I was definitely going to lose that game. And then I got smoked once with Infect in a game.
I have yet to feel the pain.
It sucks.
And then I lost another one. So I won I think 3 games. But it was they are here to play at this point. So, yeah, no need to hold back anymore.
No mercy.
Yep.
Not that I don't think anyone has been lately. But
dropping the gauntlets now on Tuesday.
No, after that one game that he played Jingataxis, I was like, okay, no more mercy when I play you guys.
Well, I didn't mention this one, I don't think, on the show last week, but I played a game with them with my Sphinx deck, and I set everything up for a kill at the end with Madomi the Ageless, who gives you the extra turn.
Okay.
So I got ready to play Madomi with Lightning Greaves so I can swing, and then drop True Conviction so I could get double strike and get 2 extra turns, which would have been enough with my Sphinxes in the air to just kill the 3 people in the game. And so I played it, and I had like 3 counter spells in hand, so I had the ability to deal with anything. It never occurred to me that I'll swing and I got sudden spoiling, which I can't counterspell because it's got
Split second
and turned all, my Sphinxes lost their abilities. Not only did they lose their abilities, they became 0/2s, lost flying, so they all got blocked and got killed. Like, I don't need to help these guys.
No.
You can just encourage them to run bad cards at this point.
Where you're just gonna have to start saying, "Oh, no, I there's better cards than that."
Yeah, right.
Then tell them some card that's not really better
Right,
and see what happens.
Or ban stuff. I'm like, oh, I'm afraid you're going to have to forfeit for playing that fast bond.
We have enough judges now. We could get a
we
game
have enough
loss.
judges, and we're talking about the rules here, so we might as well take advantage of it. So how about social media, Chris? Anything come across there?
Nothing really Magic related. I heard a lot of people talking about wrestling and
We had a big
6-pack abs and stuff like this.
Twitter had a big, and I missed it all that day because I had like a work project, so my phone was not on, and I turned it back on at like 6 or something, and there was 40 things on Twitter between us and a couple other Commander podcasts.
It was very fun to participate in that.
Speaking of social media, everyone, you can reach us on Twitter at CMDR Central, Facebook search CMDR Central, YouTube search CMDR Central, or find us online at cmdrcentral.com.
And of course, you can search us up on Patreon by searching CMDR Central. And we would like to give a shout out to our newest Patreon, Adrian Emmanuel. Thank you for giving us the support.
Yeah, thanks very much, everybody. So, Max, any news this week for us?
Yeah, we got our first glimpse into some spoilers from Magic 25, which is coming out in March. The first 2 cards spoiled were on Friday, and that was Azusa Lost But Seeking at the rare slot, and Jace the Mind Sculptor as a mythic.
And then we had one more on Saturday, I think.
We did. The third card on Saturday was Phyrexian Obliterator, so at a mythic as well.
So 3 relatively expensive cards, and one's, Azusa sees a ton of play. I don't think I've ever seen a Phyrexian Negator cast in a game, but it's a good card.
I've seen it in a Commander game, but I think it just got taken care of right away.
4 mana is a lot, too. It's tough to play outside of maybe mono black. But Azusa sees a ton of play. She sees a ton of modern play. Jace, people just collect Jace.
Yep.
He's fine in EDH. He's not like a backbreaker, but the card is still holding, $50 value at least, I think?
I think my World Works are like 70.
Yeah, it's still a pricey card. So, at least the first 3 cards we've seen spoiled are pretty good.
Yeah. And the other interesting thing is it appears that all the rares and mythics are going to be having this original set watermark in the text box.
Yep. And I think it might even be every card.
Oh.
I think it's the non-Planeswalker cards.
Okay.
Will have the original set, including Alpha Beta Unlimited as well. So I'm not sure if there's even a set symbol for that, if they're just going to make one for it, or just put ABU or something. So that's cool. And you can see it in the Phyrexian Negator card. It looks really good.
Yeah, it does.
So we'll have more spoilers, I'm sure, in the coming weeks. But I think that's the only master set this year.
I hope so.
Although we do get a core set, which should have reprints too. But those will be standard playable, so you're not going to get a Jace or an Azusa or a Negator.
You never know.
Yeah, I guess you never know. We did get Urborg a couple years back. That was kind of surprising. All right, so we're going to talk about rules changes particularly. We can talk about the rules too if we want to, but I think we're going to go basically over the history of rules changes in EDH and basically how those have affected what we've done since we've been playing. Because I think it's interesting just to see how these changes have affected people. It's easy to theorize and say, oh, this is going to be a big deal. But at the end of the day, some of them wind up not being that big of a deal.
Yeah.
So I think let's review here what change we've had over the years and talk about basically whether or not those affected us or not since we've been playing. Quickly before then, I've got a trivia question for you guys. So looking at the Commander ban list, I'm not going to read the whole thing because it's long enough that it will take 2 minutes, but you can find it on mtgcommander.net/rules. So of the banned cards, you want to take a guess what banned card shows up most in EDH Rex Commander deck list?
I have a guess.
I'll let you guess, Max.
Gifts Ungiven.
Gifts Ungiven. Gifts Ungiven has quite a few copies, 141 in decks. And Gifts Ungiven is, I think, the banned card I've seen it played at least twice.
So have I.
From somebody who didn't know it was
I
banned.
remember that one day.
Well, because it looks so much like
Intuition
that you assume that this is probably legal too. But
and it was just reprinted, so people have
Right.
them.
So yeah, I've seen Gifts Ungiven played at least twice, I think. But no, that is not even close at 141.
Hmm.
Have you any
Not
guesses,
even
Chris?
close?
Not even close.
Oh man, I'm actually looking at it, and that's probably, I was gonna guess Primeval Titan, but everyone should know that's banned. But I've seen that played by people too.
Prime Time's in 832 decks on there. Now I think, first of all, I'm gonna say I think the numbers are probably skewed a little bit by people that like put their deck online and then don't change it.
Okay.
So if you put your Primeval Titan deck online and then it was banned 5 years ago, it's probably been cycled out of the lists. So I assumed Leovold to be number one because he's the most recently banned commander. But Leovold was only in 806 decks. So that kind of caught me by surprise. The most frequently played card is Prophet Krufix.
Still.
It's in 3,500 decks.
Wow.
So I wonder if those might just be decks that haven't been changed too.
So
A
I
good
would bet
majority of them.
I would bet a chunk of them definitely are. I bet there's a chunk of them from people that are just like, screw you, card doesn't need to be banned. I'm running it anyway. And there's probably a lot of kitchen table players that just don't even know about the ban list.
Probably.
That are playing Commander, put their deck online, but don't pay attention to that kind of stuff. But yeah, 3,500 decks. That's a significant amount. So
that card deserved the ban hammer hard.
Yes, it did.
Well, we'll talk about that when we get to it. So let's chronologically go backwards, I think, here through the changes that we've had to deal with over the years. Because there hasn't been much the last few years. The most recent thing was a little less than a year ago, April 24th, 2017, had two big changes. Leovold was banned, and Protean Hulk was unbanned. So let's talk about Leovold first. Leovold being banned. Obviously, that affected Chris because he had a Leovold deck.
Yeah, it did. And that deck wasn't even horrible, neither.
No, it wasn't.
It wasn't, but it was a pain.
It was a pain, but it could have been much, much worse.
Yeah. You weren't running all the busted wheel effects or anything. Do you want to read Leovold here real quick, just as a capper to remind everyone what exactly it is he does?
So I'm going to go off of memory because I'm not as fast typing as the rest of you guys. But Leovold is a Sultai for casting costs, so black, green, blue, for a 3/3. Leovold has the text, whenever, I do believe it is, a permanent of yours is targeted, you may draw a card. He also has the effect that your opponents cannot draw more than one card per turn.
Correct.
And he's a 3/3.
Yes.
That covers pretty much all of it.
I did that right off the top of my head.
Nice. So that doesn't sound, if you don't really think that closely about it, doesn't sound like that big of a deal. The problem with Leovold there was each opponent can't draw more than one card each turn. You initially look at it and think, well, that just means your opponent can't cast card draw spells, which seems fine. The problem is when you yourself cast wheel effects, meaning everyone discards their hand and draws 6 cards or 5 cards or 7 cards or whatever it is.
Yep.
They just discard their hand and can't draw.
They can draw one because they each get to draw one card per turn.
That's true. So it's pretty easy to lock the game out with wheel effects or Teferi's puzzle box or whatever. So your opponents can't draw more than one card a turn, and you can cycle through your entire library. And it's also then difficult to remove without giving your opponent card advantage as well.
Yep.
Right.
The biggest reason I liked him as a general was not the effect of minus their card draw. It was whenever anything of yours gets targeted, you get to draw a card. That was the greatest effect that he had.
Yes, that was nice. I think he would have been easy to. I think a lot of the problems then would have been solved if each opponent can't draw more than one card each turn was their spells. If a spell or ability an opponent controls would make them draw.
Yep.
More than one card per turn, they can only draw the one or however it was. So you couldn't, if the wheel thing didn't work, if it was just no, you can't draw cards and you can't destroy my stuff, so you could play Sultai Control.
Yep.
It would be fine if you didn't have the wheel lock. I can't say I ran into it. You just like I said, Chris's deck was annoying, but it wasn't like you weren't playing a broken version of it. But I think the temptation was probably there for a lot of people. Clearly, the rules committee thought so.
Right.
So the other one was Protean Hulk, which we had a little experience with because right after the unbanning, Max put it in a deck.
I did put it in a deck.
And how did that work out?
Bribery likes Protean Hulk.
And then immediately, and it was a deck that was
Beast Tribal.
That's what you had it in.
Yes.
So
that deck
let's
didn't last very long.
No, it
it
didn't.
did not.
Protean Hulk is 5 generic and 2 green for a 6/6 beast. Whenever Protean Hulk dies, search your library for any number of creature cards with total converted mana cost 6 or less and put them onto the battlefield and shuffle your library.
So again, that sounds fairly innocuous.
Until it gets stolen in a Marchesa deck and it gets a +1/+1 counter and
And it can just keep bouncing back with a
and
sack
they
outlet.
combo off of your own card.
Yep. And generally speaking, the way it's ran in decks that was a problem is it was ran with Flash for what's called a Flash Hulk combo, and Flash lets you play a creature at instant speed, but if you don't pay the amount of difference of mana between Flash and the creature's casting cost, you immediately sacrifice it.
Okay.
So Flash would just let you play Protean Hulk for 1 mana and then have it die immediately to go with the tutor effect. So for 1 mana, you can tutor 2 creatures into play, and then people that are running that combo are running some kind of combo with those, an auto-win combo with the creatures. So it turns into a really, really good Tooth and Nail. And Tooth and Nail was already really, really good. So Max had a bad experience when he unbanned it. Have you seen one played, though, besides that?
I have not.
Neither have I.
I questioned the rules committee on unbanning Protean Hulk, but I can't say it's made a difference in my average game.
I have one in my binder, and I still don't play it.
Yeah, I have a couple.
Yeah, I have a couple, but I don't play it, and I don't think I would just because of you got to kind of build some of those cards into your deck to go get that combo piece. And if I was going to put it in anything, it'd probably be a mono green deck, and then I'm not going to build that type of combo into it.
I mean, it would be. I think it would be good in mono green, even if it wasn't combo based, just as a value card.
Yep.
Sure. But it's not necessarily great. If you don't build around it. So I was thinking about this, and I think there's two kinds of creatures particularly that get banned. And Protean Hulk is the first kind, and that's a card that if someone dedicates a combo to it or dedicates their deck to doing something degenerate, they can pretty easily do the degenerate thing. But if you don't dedicate your deck to doing that, it's probably just an okay card. So Protean Hulk, if you're playing with people in a meta that are like looking to just run fast auto-win combos, it's probably a problem.
Yeah.
If you're not playing in that meta where people are not putting their deck around it and it's just a piece of a deck, it's a good card, but it's not an auto-include in every green deck, I don't think. Definitely isn't, because I'm not running any of my green decks. And not for any philosophical reason, just because none of the decks I have particularly want it.
No.
Like if you're playing Marin or Carador or something where you're going to sacrifice it
And get it back.
and you already have a bunch of sack outlets in the deck, so you can play it and sack it and then go grab Spore Frog and go grab something else that you can, do something gross with and then bring it back and do it again. And that makes sense in that deck. But like for me to run it in any of my decks, I would have to run sack outlets that I'm not already running and probably have specific creatures worth getting that are worth, you just have to build your deck around it to a degree for the most part. And I think that's just not a problem in a lot of metas. So I think it's been a fine unbanning. It's been a fine unbanning because people's metas self-regulate to a degree.
Yeah, I remember when it got unbanned, it spiked in price, and right now on Scryfall, they're saying that it's only like a $10 card. I remember it spiked up to almost 30 when the unbanning came out.
Yep.
So apparently it's probably not seen a whole lot of play if it's only like a $10 card.
Yeah.
Nope.
At least not outside of super competitive metas. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So those rule changes seem to be fine, I think, in hindsight. Then we go back to January 18th, 2016, which was when Rule 4 was removed from decks, so you can now generate mana of any color. I kind of forgot about that rule change. Then there's 3 rule changes at that point in time. So there's that one. There's a change to where partial Paris Mulligan is removed in favor of Vancouver Mulligan. So for those who don't remember, partial Paris let you keep 2 or 3 cards from your hand and draw that many more. Whereas Vancouver Mulligan, which is what we have now, is where you get the free scry. You get 1 free mull and a scry.
Yep.
And then Prophet of Krufix was banned this time. So let's start with the Rule 4 thing, which frankly I'd forgotten was even a thing at this point. Like I remember when you couldn't make mana of any other color, but I forgot that if you have a City of Brass now or something in your deck, you can make red even in a non-red deck. It just doesn't come up ever.
Chromatic Lantern.
It's not Reflecting Pool. What's the other one that targets
Meteor,
a land?
Is it Meteor Crater?
No, you're thinking of Forbidden Orchard?
Yeah, the one that does a land, a color that
Your
opponent
opponent
controls.
controls.
Oh, Exotic Orchard.
Yep. Urborg in every deck.
Yep.
Yeah, that's and that was one of the few ones, I think. Although I guess Urborg was legal before, but
You couldn't create black, so it
black,
just
and now
sat
you can.
there.
Yeah.
And didn't do anything for you.
So yeah, it did give you that advantage, I guess. It made send triplets a little bit better because you have to use your mana to cast the spell, and if you can now run Mana Confluence and City of Brass to make other color mana, I guess it makes send triplet decks a little bit more playable, but by and large, this one didn't change anything.
No, I mean, it made some other cards better, like Daxos Militus that says that you have to cast, the card or whatever, but you have to follow the color of it.
Right.
Now we have Ganti, which, you have to cast the card, but now
you can use any color.
you can use any
for it.
color, so.
And I think they've also, part of this change too, is they've seemed to have moved away from making you use the color mana to cast a spell. They let you use any color now.
Yep.
So it's become just less and less relevant too.
Yeah.
So that one wasn't a big deal, I don't think. I think we agree for there. But I think Partial Paris switching to Vancouver Mulligan was kind of a big deal.
See, I was fine with Partial Pairs when people actually played it right, and a lot of times when we did it, you would reveal what you kept and say it was 1 land and a Soul Ring.
Sure.
Pitch the rest of it because you're like, well, I need the lands,
Yeah.
I could be going for combo pieces because I could reveal Vampiric Tutor, Demonic Tutor, 2 lands and be like, okay, I'm pitching this.
Right.
I just want, gas to go with it. But instead, most of the time, people just revealed a couple lands and then pitched the rest and pulled some more.
Right. Did you guys change how you built your decks at all when that rule change went through? I did.
I think I upped by 1 or 2 lands.
That's what I did too.
Same here.
That was probably about it.
Because that was such a nice safety blanket. I was okay running 35 or so in most of my decks, or 36, because, okay, I got 1 in this opening hand. I'll just set that aside, and if I Partial Paris, odds are I'll get 1 or 2 more. I'm fine. Being unable to do that made me up my land count by 1, I think, in most of my decks.
Yeah, it was like 1 or 2, depending on how many colors you're playing.
Yeah. I liked this rule change, especially at the time our meta was getting kind of shady. Where we saw a lot of people having the same type of opening hand, game in and game out, all due to Partial Paris, and it just...
I think if you're playing at a kitchen table with friends, or you're playing in a small meta where it's like 4 or 5 people and everyone knows each other, then no one abuses Partial Paris. But I think if you're playing with strangers that you don't know, Partial Paris creates the incentive to not cheat, but like try to sculpt your hand for the auto win combo.
Yep.
And if everyone isn't doing that, that's kind of a disbalance in the game. If one person's trying to find this auto win combo and everyone else is just like, let's just play and have fun and make sure you have lands. So that one did wind up being kind of a big deal. I will also say, though, I did add more lands to my decks, but at this point, this has been 2 years or so ago, and I've gotten to be a better deck builder in that time. Because I think everyone does. The more you play, the better you get.
Yep.
And my average CMC has crept down a little bit more. So now I've started maybe pulling those lands back out a little bit too in some of my decks, because I can afford to, because my decks have gotten better.
Yep.
So the third one here, Prophet of Krufix, which we mentioned, is still in 3,500 decks.
Yeah.
And Chris said he was glad to see it banned and it had to happen. What are your thoughts on it, Max?
I agree. This card is extremely powerful in the color combination it's in for it to remain in the game. I think the banning was a good call.
So I mentioned that there were 2 kinds of cards that get banned. The first one was like Protean Hulk, where you probably want to have it in a deck that you've built to take advantage of it. The second kind is Prophet of Krufix, which is just good in any deck that can run it.
Yeah.
Like there's no situation where putting Prophet of Krufix in a blue-green deck isn't good.
Right.
I mean, the amount of value it generates is crazy. It was a 4 mana to cast,
5.
5 to cast, but then you can you untap all your
creatures and
lands on every other player's turn.
I think the biggest one
your
of the
stuff has
biggest
flash.
Yeah, the biggest reason was probably because of the flash clause.
Well, it gives you almost an extra turn
Every turn.
Yeah, that's probably the biggest reason I got banned was because of flash clause, because the 5 mana
Seedborn Muse?
Yes, she doesn't have flash, but she does the same thing.
She's also not in blue, though.
Yes.
Right.
So
Which, that's fine in blue. I mean, yeah, you got your Rifts, your other stupid cards like that you could play, but the flash, just being able to jam more things in.
Yeah.
Source, it's creatures, correct?
Only creatures get
Yeah.
flash.
So you can jam in any of your creatures. You can play your general out of the command zone.
Right.
I mean, any of that stuff.
Yeah. Prophet was fun, and I remember the first time I put it in a deck and tried it, I'm like, oh, this is a really cool card. And I remember Max had it in some deck.
It didn't even belong in the deck, but it was a card that
Yeah.
you just put in the deck.
And I copied it or stole it or something with my Talran deck. And I remember being like, oh, this is disgusting in my deck. I mean,
Yeah.
it was.
It's a good card.
Yeah. It's too good of a card, probably.
Yes.
But people still argue for having it unbanned.
I mean, if it didn't have flash, I would be all for it, because it'd just be another Seedborn Muse.
Yeah. It also, I will say this about it. It doesn't make games, like some cards make games bad when they're in play, and they make things generally unfun to play. And that doesn't make things unfun. It just creates so much value that it's broken.
Let's play Prophet of Crufix, untap everything. Let's play Protean Hulk, untap everything.
Right. So in 2015, we had one change. Tuck was removed from the game. And for those who don't remember, at that point in time, you could force someone to put their commander into their library. And I think Chris remembers this.
I remember this horribly.
Because he had still does.
Yeah, Mogus got a slaughter. There's a reason I stopped playing that deck for a while there. Literally, you'd play him, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, Declamor, and you're like, yeah, I hate all of you.
You're in black. You have tutors.
That's true.
Who wants to tutor him back up when you could be tutoring for better cards?
But that affected a bunch of things.
Yes.
I mean, it made some cards a lot less playable, for one.
Yeah.
Because prior to that, I mean, not that Condemn doesn't still see play, but Condemn being able to put the commander in the bottom of someone's library and have it be unavailable. I mean, you basically could get rid of a commander for good in a lot of decks.
Yep.
So Condemn is still gets played, but it's not as strong as it once was. The two counter spells, Hinder and Spell Crumple, when you countered the spell, it went to the bottom of the library. Those were backbreaking in blue, being able to bury someone's commander for good. And they'd see almost, I can't think of the last time I've seen either of those cast.
I don't play either one anymore.
I don't, and I absolutely did in blue decks at the time.
Yep.
And if it was still a thing, I probably still would. There was Chaos Warp and Oblation, but those both see some play, but they were auto includes. I mean, Oblation was an auto include, I would say, in white at the time, and I don't think it is anymore.
No.
I still think it's pretty close.
It's
An argument for it.
It really hit the white board wipes that put in the bottom of your library.
Terminus.
And is it Final Judgment?
Yes.
Final Judgment that puts in the bottom of your library too. So there's a couple of them Hallowed Burial.
There we go.
Hallowed Burial. And those really got hit too. I mean, Terminus still sees play because it can be miracled and it's okay.
Still pretty good, I would think.
But at the time, those cards were pretty heavily played because that was a big deal. Did it change how you guys did anything with your decks?
Before Tuck or after Tuck?
Well, both.
Not really. I just sucked it up and lived with it.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. It made my indestructible commanders maybe last a little longer because they couldn't get tucked, which was nice.
And people ran the tuck spells less, so they were less able to. You couldn't permanently bury an indestructible commander, and you were less likely to run the spells that could in the first place.
I noticed I became a little bit more aggressive with the general now because it just goes back to the command zone. So you don't have to think quite as hard as what you're going to do with it.
I remember at the time, too, seeing a lot of, I didn't really do it, but seeing a lot of discussion online about how you should have a high market in all of your decks, and you should have, maybe not Ashen's Ultra, but you should have multiple sack outlets in every deck, even if you had no way to take advantage of it, just because you might need to sacrifice your commander to keep it from getting buried.
Yep.
And I think that also has changed. You no longer Not that those aren't useful in a lot of decks, but like there isn't necessarily a reason to have high market just to sack your stuff to save it from something like that.
Now, here's a question for you two. Since that change of that rule, have you noticed decks becoming more linear around the general more, where it's just like all about the general and not so much about the deck, compared to back then where you could tuck the general?
I don't know.
Yeah, I think like between us three, no, I think we still build. We don't base it off our general. We're really good about that. But I think some people in the shop kind of have digressed back into that because they don't have to worry about the tuck rule.
Okay.
But I mean, if your commander costs 40 mana to cast, you gotta have a backup plan.
Right?
Yeah. I think it's also one of those things that maybe in the time since it happened, people have gotten to be better deck builders and run more removal. That it's also maybe a little bit less of an issue than it was at the time. If you were only running 3 removal spells in your entire library and one of them tucked something so it felt more impactful, maybe that's been counteracted by people running 5 or 6 removal spells now. I think it's forced you to be a better deck builder because maybe tuck was lazy. I want to say maybe not lazy, but like it was an easy way to just deal with the problem and not have to worry about it again.
Like a cop
True.
out.
Yeah. I think it was also I think they had to do it at some point because the more tuck spells you add, the more of an issue it becomes. And if even if they only release one a year, if between now and the next 8 years we have 8 new pretty decent tuck spells in existence, then you're gonna have a game with a lot of commanders buried very quickly. If there's that many tuck spells people have access to, you're gonna get games where people are just tucking commanders. So I think they had to do something. It wasn't a big deal when it was Oblation and Condemn and nothing else, but they added enough, one a year or so every year for how many years that it just became a problem.
Okay.
All right, I think we're all kind of in agreement there too, but that was an interesting time to be playing Commander and see that change happen, for sure. All right, September of 2014, we had a couple rules. Banned as Commander was removed from the game, and for those that weren't playing at that time, there was a separate ban list. There was cards that were banned in your deck, and there were a couple commanders that were banned just as your commander, but you could have them in the deck. And that was Braid's Cabal Minion, Raphaelos Llanowar Emissary, Areu, and Kakusho the Evening Star. And the first 3, Braids, Raphaelos, and Areu, were all just outright banned, so they can't be in the deck or anything. And Kakusho was made legal all over the place. So, did anyone run any of those cards, or are you running any of them now?
I do not run. I never ran any of them, and I don't run Kakushkyo anywhere, unfortunately.
I did have a Raphaelos at one point in time, and then they changed it, and I was like, oh, okay, we're just going to get rid of him.
Raphaelos, if you were playing an elf deck, he would probably be in the elf deck, and he makes a perfectly viable commander, I think, in an elf deck. Kakusho, I see in at least one, if not 2 different
Decks at the shop.
I'm trying to think of
Blake's Gonti deck.
I think
the only one I've seen it in.
I've seen it in at least one Gonti deck, and if not, another mono black, like a mono black control deck. I can't remember who the general was. So I have seen it get played, but it doesn't feel broken. I don't think that's a problem at all. Even if it was the commander, it costs enough mana that you can stop it. I just don't think it would be that big of a deal. So that one hasn't been a huge deal. I had Areo, Soratami Ascendant in my Edric deck at the time. Areo is a 2-mana flyer, which was number 1, the main reason. That's not terrible in Edric. But when Areo flips, you counter the first spell played by each opponent each turn. That's not just like on your turn. That's on their turn, their first spell gets countered. And it was pretty easy to flip in Edric, too.
That's backbreaking in Edric.
I put it in that deck, and I played it one night and got it out twice and took it out. Like, it was not fun to have out, and it felt oppressive to the point that I just didn't want to be someone running it.
Yeah.
So I actually wound up taking it out, and I traded it to somebody else, and then it got banned like a week later. So I didn't feel that worked out all right for me. But I think that one, I'm glad to see that not part of the game because it's just not a fun card.
Yeah, the similar effects are like Jason Raveler of Secrets. His ult does that,
and I've seen that go off.
But you got to get there.
You got to get there.
It's not as easy as casting 4
I've
1
seen
mana
it turn
spells.
6, so don't even give me that.
Sorry.
Have you seen it the ult on turn 6?
Turn 5, doubling season. Turn 6, cast him, Ultim.
Oh, was that in like Prinitus deck or like some 5-color Planeswalker deck, or was it
An
just someone who
Angus
had?
Mackenzie deck.
Angus McKenzie.
Was it an Angus? Oh, yeah, that's rough.
We'll give a shout out to Luke for that one. He showed me the misery of what happens.
Ugh.
And then you throw Tameo in there, and you're
You
lost.
just
That's
you
it.
just sit there and go,
GG.
yeah, we should have seen this coming. You know, it's like turn 7. We should have been able to stop this.
In that same cycle, we had Metalworker unbanned.
Which I've seen it once, and I haven't seen anyone else play. Like, I bring it up, I'm like, yeah, you could play this card, and they're like, that's not banned. It's like, no, that's not banned.
I'm running one in my Vela Artifacts deck.
Oh, really? I haven't seen it
And
come out of there.
I've got it out and used it once, and it's fine. And I don't. It's a good card. I've had it played against me in at least one Eldrazi deck that's running a ton of mana rocks. They were using it, and it's strong, and it didn't feel.
No, I mean, that makes sense in an Eldrazi deck. You're dropping these big beaters for, outrageous amounts of mana. You need something that's going to ramp you hard into
Right.
them.
And there are probably situations where someone gets it out on turn 1 because of mana rocks or something, and then on turn 2 they can tap it and their rocks and cast something disgusting, a Wormcoil Engine on turn 2 or something. I'm sure that can happen, but like there's a lot of situations where you get a freaky.
That's why Wormcoil's the best 3-drop ever.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. So no, I have not. I can't complain about Metalworker either. It's a strong card, but it should be in the game, I think.
Totally agree with that.
All right, so now we're going to get into a couple ones that are relatively famous.
Ooh.
February 2nd, 2014, Sylvan Primordial was banned. And I was just playing then. So I remember it, but I don't remember. I remember someone talking about it being banned, but I had no idea what the card even was at the time. And we could do a quick refresher here of what Sylvan Primordial does. Because that was in Gatecrash, I believe, right?
It was.
He
And it
even
wasn't-
got reach. What the crap? I couldn't even remember what the card did.
And it is 7 mana for a 6/8. It's 5
Yeah.
and 5 green. It has reach, and when it enters the battlefield, for each opponent, destroy target non-creature permanent that player controls. And for each permanent destroyed this way, you may search your library for a forest card and put it onto the battlefield tapped. Then shuffle your library. So basically, you play it, you destroy 3 things, and you ramp out 3 forests.
Yep.
Forests, not basic forests.
Correct. And they do come in tap, though.
They do
So,
come
I mean,
tapped.
That's
Um,
something.
Then
So-
my Prophet of Krufix untaps them.
Oh,
Right.
snap.
Right, exactly. I remember at the time the logic was that Sylvan was so good both as a ramp and as a way to set people back that they were running just a ton of clones to take it or copy it, and whoever copied it the most times won the game.
Yeah.
I just wasn't playing enough to see that, but I absolutely believe it.
Oh, yeah, it's super believable. I think it deserved the ban, and it could probably stay there. I don't think there's a way to counteract its abilities, how the game is right now, in my opinion.
Even little things like if it doesn't need to say forest, it could say even if it said basic forest, it would still be really broken. Like, even if it just got you a basic forest, but the fact that it lets you grab duels and lets you grab shocks and stuff is so good.
I think it would be better if it was like the 8-drop? I can't think of the name of it right now. The 9/9 that comes in, destroys 3 permanents, but they get 3 threes.
Terrestodon?
Yep. If it would have said something where you destroy those permanents, but then they each get a land for each person that you destroyed something of them,
Sure.
they get a land.
Yeah. Or have one or the other clause, don't do both.
Yeah.
Destroy 3 things or get 3 basic lands.
Yeah.
But not-
Choose one or something like
yeah,
that.
choose one.
I think it was also one of those cards that we mentioned where it's worth running in any deck. It was worth running in whatever green deck you were running. And plus, green's the ramp color, so like if you're ramping up to this on turn 4 and you're already at 7 or 8 lands and you drop it and knock everyone else back 1 land while you then go up 3 more, well, then that gap at that point is so wide that how do you deal with that?
That's true.
So I get it.
I have a what-if question.
Sure.
If this was a legendary creature, do you think it would be banned?
So
Yes.
you can still clone somebody else's.
Right.
Then it's that much easier to cast as your commander, so you're ramping it out.
Yeah, because you don't have to go finding it. in
Yeah,
your deck.
I think as a legend, it's even worse, probably, just because you can get it right away. So then you build your entire deck around ramp, so you can get out on turn 3,
Yep.
and then it's just over. You just got to cast it once at that point, and you ramp so far ahead and knock everyone else back that you probably
you're
just
just
win.
gonna play mono green ramp is what you're gonna play.
Yeah. We've got a couple more we can go back and look at here, because these are cards that do come up. April of 2013, we had Trade Secrets that was banned and Staff of Domination that was unbanned. Staff of Domination just does a bunch of stuff and is kind of a combo enabler, and it was reprinted as a masterpiece in Kaladesh, and I've never seen one played.
I've never seen this card played. In fact, I don't understand how it's a combo piece because I've never seen it played.
I've looked up the combo before and been like, oh, so I guess if I ran all those cards, I could do that, but it didn't really.
Gotcha.
It wasn't something that jumped out to me. I think you have to run the dedicated combo, and if you don't, it's not that great of a card. Trade Secrets is interesting.
I'm not sure why that one's banned.
So I looked that up. I wanted to see what their logic was there. And people don't know, Trade Secrets is a sorcery for 3 mana. Target opponent draws 2 cards, and then you draw up to 4 cards. That opponent may then repeat this process as many times as he or she wants. So you draw 4, an opponent draws 2, and then they may then draw 4 and make you draw 2, in which case then you can draw 4 and have them draw 2 back and forth. Well, that was the problem with it, is it wound up being the person who cast it picks the weakest player at the table, and then they both turn it into a 2-player game because they draw so many cards that no one else can deal with it. Draw until they hit Reliquary Tower, draw down until they hit whatever stuff they want to hit, and then everyone else is so far behind that for the most part probably can't catch back up.
Wheel of Fortune.
Yeah, I mean, there are answers to it, and even despite seeing that ruling, I'm like, I still don't know if I would even run it.
No, we don't like to help people, though.
I don't like to help people, but I guess, okay, so let's play this out, because you're coming out ahead. And so I say, okay, Chris, I'm going to draw 4. You can draw 2. If someone does that to you, do you take the other half of it? Do you take the temptation, I guess? It's like a tempt card. Then do you draw 4 and give it back to me, or do you just take your 2 and let it die?
I guess it all depends on board state.
Yeah, that's true.
Or it depends on what's in my hand or what I'm playing, too. Like, if I'm playing blue and you target me, I'd be like, okay, I'll take 2. And then I'd stop there.
But I've seen these loops like this with Consecrated Sphinx before, because the same thing kind of happens there. I'm going to draw 2, you're going to draw 4, I'll draw. And that just loops infinitely, kind of, if 2 people have Sphinxes out. I could see it being unbanned.
I could too. I don't think it's
maybe having never
broken or
played it.
anything.
Maybe you have to be in a game and see it cast to really understand the impact of it. I can see it being annoying.
I think that's mainly why keeping it banned is smart. It's annoying. And like you said, you're going to pick the weakest player on the table, or you're going to pick that player you've already made a truce with.
Yeah.
And be like, hey, I'll let you find your answer to that problem. And then 2 turns later, you stab them in the back.
Or you go down to your Ginger Taxis and play that, so they have to discard all those cards they just drew, or you know. And if you're the person who is running this, maybe you're also running some pieces that do hit their hands then too. If you're playing black-blue and you're going to run ways to destroy their hand entirely anyway, that it just winds up being the world's biggest brainstorm for you. You draw down until you hit that piece.
3 mana Blue Sun Zenith.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting. I would be curious to see it in play, but it was also printed in a Commander product right before it was banned.
Yep. That's why I was super curious. I'm like, I don't think it's that powerful if they printed it. But then again, you never know.
Yeah. So before that, we go to September of 2012, and that's when Primeval Titan was banned.
That's one of them that I really think could come off the ban list. I don't think it's broken by any means. I understand we could go into the whole clone aspect with Sylvan Primordial again with that, but if it hits the field, you get 2 lands. Whenever it attacks, you get 2 lands. It just needs to be removed.
Yep.
The Titans are all really good. This one is the best. 6 mana for 6/6, trample whenever it enters battlefield or attacks, search for up to 2 land cards.
That's what.
But it's any land.
That's why it's banned.
I think if
It
said
is.
basic, if it was basic, it'd be still ridiculous.
Yeah.
But the fact that it's any land cards, that also I think is what makes it from a really strong card that you probably run in your deck to a card that you have to run in your deck. Like if this is legal, you run it in every green deck. There's no situation where you don't. I don't think.
I'd agree with that. You'd run it in every 2-color deck.
Right. Yeah, that's true. You run it in your green-black to go get Cabal Coffers and Urborg. You run it in
Green-blue to go get Alchemist Refuge and whatever else you want.
Running in green red to go grab Valkut. I mean, there's stuff in most color combinations. Go grab Nykthos. You're gonna go grab your Dark Depths and your Thespian Stage. Yeah, man, I agree. I think it could be unbanned except it says 2 lands. I think that's the problem. It's just a perfect combo enabler, and there's a lot of good lands, but it still sees it's still an 800 X on EDH Rec, despite being banned 5 years ago.
That's crazy.
So sees plenty of modern play too, and it's been reprinted a couple times in the last few years. It's been at least one Modern Masters.
2 or 3 times, because I know it was reprinted in Iconic and Modern Masters 2. Maybe Modern Masters 1 it was reprinted too. I'm not sure.
So it's been around.
I'm looking. Iconic, Modern Masters 15, M12, and M11.
Okay.
And it was a Grand Prix promo too.
Oh wow, as well as original printing.
Yeah.
And it's still close to a $10 card. Yeah, if that got unbanned, that would be interesting. That would definitely explode because every green EDH deck.
Which I think I would be fine with, honestly. I think it would speed up games a little bit. I suppose maybe people would start playing more combo based, but you really don't need to play that.
I just think you put it in every green deck, and then you also throw in Thespian Stage and Dark Depths,
and you win.
And you just win.
Bah, I love seeing Dark Depths come out and flipping into whatever he flips into, and then you just go Swords of Plowshare. It's like, suck it.
I got super excited playing this weekend. Playing the Tesa deck. I played it twice. I had Anointed Procession out in Westvale Abbey, and for like 5 seconds in my brain, I forgot that Westvale Abbey was a flip, and I was thinking in terms of Dark Depths that it was a token. I'm like, oh, I get to make 2 of them when I flip it. I'm like, oh, when I flip it, it's a flip. Like in my head for like 3 seconds, I was super excited. I'm like, oh, living a dream. 2 Profane Princes, but no, it was not to be. All right, Worldfire. Worldfire was also banned at this time. I was going to say I'm shocked Worldfire was ever not banned, but I wondered if that when Worldfire was maybe released. Was it maybe released and they're just like, yep, got to ban it?
It was released in M13, so...
So if it was legal, it wasn't legal for long.
Yeah.
I remember using this card when I first started playing Magic at like kitchen table games, 60-card decks, and just ramping into Worldfire, and everybody loses.
Well, it's very similar to Sway of Stars that is banned also.
Yeah.
10 mana. I think Worldfire's 9. The other one's 10 mana, and it does the same thing except for Sway of Stars puts you 7 life, and you shuffle everything back in.
Right.
Whereas Worldfire destroys everything, and you start at 1 life.
I think there's one more big ban worth kind of touching on. We won't go through the entire history because there's another 5 or 6 years going back, but Griselbrand in June of 2012 was banned, as was Sundering Titan. So Griselbrand seems pretty obvious. That's just a ridiculous amount of
card draw for free.
Right, it is free because you hit. There's going to be someone that you hit, and you're going to gain the 7 life back.
It doesn't even matter. You start at 40 life. If no one touches you,
40.
If no one touches you and you drop him on turn 8, or even sooner, if you have any sort of ramp into him, and then you suit him up with Lightning Greaves and swing, you just go, okay, I'm going to draw, 30 cards or something.
We've had the conversation where like, what's the best mono black general? Well, if Griselbrand's legal, it's Griselbrand. The answer is Griselbrand, without a doubt. I remember the first time I saw the card and I saw that it was banned, I'm like, why is that banned? I mean, it's good, but it doesn't seem that good. And then I was playing the iPad Magic game. I can't forget what it's even called.
Like Duel of the Planeswalkers?
Yeah, Duel of the Planeswalkers. And I got Griselbrand, like one of the virtual packs you open on there to build your deck. So I got a Griselbrand, and I put it in the deck I was playing. And I'm like, oh, I got out and finally got to cast it in one game. Like, oh, this was useful. And then I'm like, oh, wow, wait a minute. No, I draw 7 cards and then get that life back. I draw 7, so it does cost me 7 life, but then it just comes back. So it's just draw 7 cards, basically, every turn.
Yeah.
That was. I think Worldfire and Griselbrand both at that time, I think they were being designed at a time when Wizards wasn't aware really of Commander being a popular product, so they didn't think about that. Nowadays, neither of those 2 cards would see print as is because they think in terms of how will this affect Commander. Oh, it's clearly broken in Commander. Let's just not print it. or let's tweak it down enough so it becomes playable in Commander. Because Grizzlebrand is insane.
Well, the other one you mentioned isn't much better.
Which one?
Sundering Titan?
So let's review Sundering Titan. Sundering Titan was a card the first time I saw somewhere. I didn't even bother looking it up to see if it was banned because I knew it was banned. But I've seen people call for it to have be unbanned too. So
Why?
I don't know.
Because they only play colorless decks.
I guess,
and
yeah.
wastes aren't. Oh, you could name waste maybe now.
It's not considered a basic
It
land
is.
type.
It is a basic land type. So
Is
you
it
could
now?
have
Okay.
basic. But I mean, if you're the one playing it, you wouldn't call
Right.
that. So when Sundering Titan enters battlefield or leaves the battlefield, not just enters, choose a land of each basic land type, then destroy those lands. But if you're playing a colorless deck for sure, Conjurer's Closet or a
I think I'd
sack
be
outlet.
playing mono red colorless or something with a bunch of mana rocks, and then play Blood Moon, and then play Sundering Titan, and then name Mountain, and just destroy.
Destroy everything.
Yeah.
And you have your mana rocks out. This also strikes me as the kind of card that bad players can play and just accidentally ruin games without realizing what they're doing.
Yes.
Because they'll drop it and then like, I'm going to blow up your forests and that guy's forests, but they're not actually being in a position to win.
Yeah.
So they just poop the game up, and that's kind of what happens. So I could absolutely see it being a card that did that. Yeah, I'm kind of surprised it lasted as long as it did. But
It's
I've
not
seen.
even- I mean, I can think of cards that do similar type of things, like I think it's called Bearer of the Heavens, or whatever. That when it dies, it exiles all lands or something like that.
Exile permanents and restart. You pretty much restart.
Yeah, but he's a 10/10.
He's 10.
So you're swinging at someone, going, okay, do you want to kill him or do you want to take
Yep.
the 10 damage? Whereas this is a 7/10. It's like, I'll take the 7 this time.
And you're playing in Bear of the Heavens is in red as well, where you have mountains. So like maybe you're playing against another mono red player or red-green player, so you don't want to hit mountains. Whereas playing in a colorless deck with Thundering Titan, you're pretty safe to hit anything.
You're just like, eat
because
it,
no one
everybody.
else is running wastes.
Right.
And you run so many utility lands in those colorless decks too that that one makes sense to me. I can see it.
Oh,
So
back when Magic was powerful.
yeah, right. So people complain about the rules committee a lot, and I do it. I'm guilty of it. It's easy to be like those idiots. Looking back,
let's unban on cards for like 3 weeks.
Just for fun.
and I don't think any of us love that change. But I will say, looking back over, 5 or 6 years of rules changes here, they seem to have handled it pretty well, I think.
I think so too.
I don't look back at any of these and be like, what was that all about?
They should have never banned Recurring Nightmare. They need to just give me that card.
That one will never come off the list.
I
don't
know.
think. So yeah, even the times I thought they were crazy, like Protean Hulk, kind of has not been that big of a deal.
No.
So is there any cards I know the card is going to get mentioned, and this conversation came up before, but we'll have it again, that you guys think they need to be thinking about banning?
Think about banning.
Yeah.
Interesting. Sure.
So at Christmas, the one that came up when we did our roundtable, Cyclonic Rift. So we'll start there. What are your thoughts on Cyclonic Rift briefly?
Super powerful, super broken. I don't think it's quite ban-worthy.
I think it's ban-worthy.
You think it's ban-worthy? Because most of the time when I see it played, it either means game's over or all they're doing is trying to buy themselves time.
Yeah.
I mean, there is like no in-between with it, so I'm fine with either way.
I see your point and I agree with it, but more often times than not, they're setting up they're going to win the game.
Which I'm fine with. I mean,
Yep.
you need
to win
those
the
cards
game.
that force in the win.
Yeah.
Especially if you're in a board stall. Like, I hate those games where you're stuck there and you're just like, there's literally nothing you can do, and your opponents can't really do anything. And Cyclonic Rift completely changes that aspect.
But I think it falls into the pile of cards of it just gets shoved in every blue deck.
It should be in every blue deck.
Because
like power-wise.
Power-wise, it's in every blue deck because it's one blue mana to cast. It's not double or triple blue.
Yep.
I think, which makes it super easy to play. You see it so much because it's in every blue deck, no matter what your color pairs are. Or something like Aetherize, is that the one that returns all attacking creatures? That's double blue, so you're not going to see it as often.
And it's only attacking creatures versus all permanents.
Right, but at the same time, that can save you as well.
Right.
Returning all the the team swinging at you.
True, but you got to leave everything up. Whereas with Cyclone Grove, you cast it on your turn. You don't have to wait for a
Right.
stipulation to be met.
True.
And it's only one person for Aether Eyes or Aether Spouts versus all opponents for Rift.
Yeah.
I'm really torn. Like it's not one of those cards when I see played, I feel like this should not be in the game.
Right.
Because I've survived Rifts before. I don't think it's unfun either. It can be dealt with, but it should be in every blue deck. There's no power reason for you to say I'm not running Rift because in this deck it's not good. That's untrue of every blue deck. Rift is good in every deck. And I think that's kind of a problem. It's one of those cards where I think if I was on the rules committee and they asked us to vote on it, I would not vote to ban it. But if everyone else
I
was
would
like,
plead my Fifth Amendment right.
but if everybody else was like, we're banning it, my response would be, all right, well, that's fine. I wouldn't fight it either.
It depends
I'd
where
be
you
cool
fall
with
in priority for council's judgment.
it.
on it.
Right. If in the council judgment of rules committee, in the hypothetical one, if I'm on it,
Yep.
I'm the last vote, and everyone else is like, ban it, I'd be like, all right, that's fine.
But you could see two things go.
Right. All right, I'm going to pick your Emrakul if we hit council, we hit Rift, and we hit... Yeah, I'm picking Insurrection. So we're hitting Insurrection and Cyclonic Rift. Actually, Insurrection would be the other one I would pick. I can't think of another card aside from Rift that I really think is even worth considering right now.
1 mana creates 2 colorless mana. I do believe Soul Ring should be banned.
I had this conversation with some people online. I think if you ban Soul Ring, you have to ban Mana Vault and Mana Crypt at the same time.
Which I would be fine with, too.
I would be okay with that as well.
I think they're all very similar in power, and I'm always very suspicious of people on Reddit or wherever that I see arguing to ban Soul Ring, but they never say a thing about Crypt or Vault, and I feel like all that really means is I don't want other people to play fast mana rocks, but I can afford a Crypt and I can afford a Vault, so I want the Soul Rings gone so I can have the advantage versus everyone has a Soul Ring. So
Yep.
Now, which one? Mana Vault is the 1 mana one, correct?
Mana Vault is 1 mana, taps for 3, and you have to spend 3.
That one I would be fine with leaving because it does shoot for 1 damage, and it costs 4 to untap it, so you get to use it once.
It's a kind of like a Dark Ritual most of the time, but it can also enable big birthday turns later on.
It can, yes, but I mean compared to Soul Ring, that's 2 for 1 immediately. Like it replaces itself.
Soul Ring is undoubtedly better than Vault.
Yes.
Crypt costs nothing to cast and taps for 2.
Yeah, that one I have no problem going either.
And then there's a couple. I mean, Grim Monolith is right on the edge too because it costs 2 and taps for 3.
But I wouldn't have a problem with that being banned, but I know a lot of people can get their hands on it. It's a reserve list card and it's expensive.
And I think Grim Monolith is actually just looks better by virtue of Soul Ring existing because you can open land Soul Ring Grim Monolith for a disgusting turn 2, whereas without Soul Ring, Grim Monolith is just a Basalt Monolith basically.
Yep.
So I think Grim Monolith would probably be okay if you lose the turn 1 rocks.
Yep. That would be okay. I mean, I guess maybe I'm being very biased because I play a lot of 1v1 where your turn 1 your rocks are banned anyways, and I noticed it doesn't hurt that format.
It wouldn't bother me at all to lose that fast mana.
I agree. I mean, it's nice to have, but you can find other replacements for it.
And I'm intentionally I had a nice shiny Mana Crypt that I ran for 2 weeks before taking out of the deck just because no one else had them. And I felt like it was a weird, unfair speed advantage. When everyone has a Soul Ring, I didn't care, but Mana Crypt, it's still $60 or so. Not everyone can afford it. A lot of people can't afford that. So,
I mean, I guess maybe I'm coming across as kind of, prudish by saying Soul Ring because everyone has a Soul Ring now. Or if you don't, I mean,
there's no reason not to.
Hell, I have 40 of them. I could probably send them out to a few people. I mean,
autograph them and send them out.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's pretty much all I have about the rules that I think is worth getting into. They're doing a pretty good job,
yeah,
I think.
I think they're doing a fine job.
And it wouldn't surprise me to get nothing this year. There are no changes. Maybe on bans. I think if anything, we'll see less than something added.
I haven't seen anything that's really ban-worthy-ish.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that's all we have this week. We'll be back next week with another show. Thank you very much for listening. I'm Dana.
I'm Max.
And I'm Chris.